Welcome back. Joining us in the studio this week, we're delighted to have with us Department of Public Works, Mr. Chris Phipps. How are you doing today, sir?
Good.
Very good to have you on the program.
King of snow. You are the queen of snow. Chris is the king of snow.
I do love the snow. You're right. But before we get into the snow conversation, I always like to ask a bit about your history with the county, how long you've been working for the county. Give us a briefing on that?
Sure. I've been the Director of Public Works for about 2.5 years. Prior to that, it's been about 19 years in the Bureau of Engineering, which is in Public Works. Most of that was as Chief Engineer. So working in, be 21 years of service with the county.
Well, we certainly thank you for many years of service. And you're right that you came from a bureau that fell under the department. And let's talk about that for a minute. What exactly is Public Works, its mission, and the divisions that fall underneath of it?
Well, Public Works is primarily focused on providing service and infrastructure maintenance that supports the whole quality of life in Anne Arundel County. And that's the road and bridge maintenance, that's storm drain maintenance and stormwater management controls, water and sewer construction, water and sewer operation of treatment plants, so providing potable drinking water, safe drinking water to the citizens, as well as returning wastewater safely back to the environment after treatment, and solid waste management. So we manage the landfill and the recycling centers and manage all the curbside collection.
And we obviously need those to always run fluidly and run well, so you always have a lot on your plate. But lately, one of the reasons that you folks might have been getting a lot of calls was, of course, because of Jonas, the snow.
What's Jonas?
Jonas, not Nick Jonas, Dave. The snow, the blizzard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Snowzilla, you mean?
Snowzilla, whatever people
Snowzilla.
call it. Your hashtag for the snow. But
Yeah.
I want to say overall, seems like it was a great effort with the plowing, doing all the roadways. So kudos to your department for doing such a fantastic job during the snow.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
How do you feel like DPW did?
Well, I feel like we did well, very well. There's over 6,000 roads in Anne Arundel County that we're responsible for. That's made up of over 4,000 lane miles that need to be plowed. That's in our inventory. So it's a monumental effort. And one of the things that I reflect on is that Public Works is pretty much a 7 to 5 operation. But with an event like this, within 24 hours, we transform ourselves into an emergency operations center consisting of hundreds of employees, hundreds of equipment that we are contracting or maintaining within our own fleet. But primarily, we had to contract out over 300 pieces of equipment to supplement our own 70 pieces of equipment. So that alone is a monumental task, just managing all the contract workers and equipment. And we rely on, believe it or not, many other organizations within the county: Department of Recreation and Parks, Inspections and Permits, Central Services, even OIT. They are providing volunteers, as part of the storm response, and many of them are dispatched into contract management in this sort of operational mode. So we transform ourselves from a 7 to 5 operation, wholly internal to Public Works. With an event like this, we transform into an emergency operations center that's reaching out into many different organizations to supply resources, and then having to manage it over a very short period of time. So it's a flurry of activity.
No pun intended.
It was much more than a flurry, Kristen.
Much more than a flurry, Dave.
Well, and I look at it too, is that we're getting so much information in from the citizenry about, they're calling in. We had over 4,300 service calls from the citizens, and all of that information is being tracked. And our goal is to respond to each and every one of them through the course of the event.
So how did we do? Did we do excellent, A+?
Well, I don't.
B?
I don't give grades. I don't know how to even grade something like this. I would say that we did very well. Overall, I think we did very well. Obviously, we're going to review our after event and see what we could do better the next time, because we're always about continuous improvement, because there is always room to improve.
And that's not to understate that. There's actually a formal meeting coming up next week where everybody's going to get in one room and look at what worked well and what didn't work as well, to see how we can do better next time.
Right, and we're doing that internally too within the Department of Public Works, but it's also being done on a broader scale across the Emergency Management Office.
Were there any new techniques or tools that you used this time around with the storm that you wanted to talk about?
Well, we did. We test drove a new system, an AVL, automated vehicle locator system, which is a GPS driven application that we can track and monitor the location of plows, whether they're county or contractor plows, because they were all outfitted with the GPS transponder. So we could track them online spatially, as well as get reports about exactly where they were at any given time. So we were using that information to help us make tactical decisions regarding redeployment of assets. Specifically, we saw that in the heat of the moment, we saw that South County was actually doing fairly well, relatively speaking. So with that information and with the information of how many resources we had, we could redeploy some of those into Central and Northern County to catch up there because of the density of the population and this event having 30 inches of snow on the roads made it that much more difficult. We could not get our large plows off of those arterial and collector roads, which are the larger roads, and into the communities as quickly as we would have if it were a 10-inch, 12-inch, 16-inch storm. And I think that's some of the reaction the folks were seeing, the citizens, is that it took a while for us to penetrate the local road network, but that's because we had our resources deployed on the major roads, and they had to do sevel passes.
Right, more than one pass.
Right.
It was.
As I've said, it was like having 3 10-inch storms. They had to keep repassing some of the same roads multiple times, as well as open up turn lanes, intersections to make it safe on the major arterials. Then we were able to get into the local roads.
You know, the thing that I noticed about this, and maybe I have a bizarre way of looking at things. Actually, Kristen can confirm I have a bizarre way of looking at things.
Yeah.
But obviously, I monitor the social media stuff, so I can get a feel for how people are reacting to the service levels. So I had two things going on. One was I was out there driving around, so I could see, I was literally driving down, B&A Boulevard, and I could see a piece of equipment on every second or third street. They were in there doing something. So I knew that the deployment was a major factor. I knew there was bare pavement on major roads on Saturday when the second wave of the storm was coming through. So I could see it happening, but when people when the loudest complaints you hear are about sidewalks, to me that said, well, it could have been, that shows that we were doing a good job on the roads because people weren't complaining as much about that.
Yeah. So
could you address the sidewalk issue just to frame it real quick? There were some people who are very vocally upset about, they shoveled the sidewalk in front of their house or their driveway, and here comes the plow, and now they have a snowbank, either snow dumped onto their sidewalk or onto the foot of their driveway. How does that work? Is the county responsible for clearing those things, and are the plow drivers supposed to clear the entry to someone's driveway and the sidewalk and everything in addition to the road?
Well, generally speaking, sidewalks by the code are the county code assigns responsibility, maintenance of sidewalks to the abutting property owner. So legally, it's the property owner's responsibility. And we ask that, especially in events like this, when they are overwhelming and we're so focused on the roads, that everyone kind of has a part in this and a contribution. If their contribution can be the sidewalks, well, that makes pedestrian activity after the storm that much easier for everyone. But as it relates to clear and avoiding situations like that, we certainly try, especially in cul-de-sacs, not to do a pass that's going to block driveways and mailboxes and things. Sometimes it's unavoidable because when we're first going into a cul-de-sac, we're doing kind of a treat approach. We push in one direction. It's almost like a 3-point turnaround just to make access and then get out. Later we'll come back and technique would be to plow it back into the center of the cul-de-sac.
That's a good point, because I remember one time I did a ride along with one of the big dump trucks, and like you said, they literally have to do a 3-point turn, and they don't have a lot of mobility to say, oh no, I want to put the snow at this degree instead of that. I mean, there's one way they can get that truck in there with the blade, clear it, and then get themselves back out. Plus, you're risking getting stuck too, and you don't want to get stuck. So you got to kind of get in there, do what you can, and get back out.
And they're instructed with that first pass not to place it next to a sidewalk, a mailbox or driveway, but between properties. And then they'll come back and do the circular pass, is ideally how we would do it. Along just a straight road frontage, they have to tilt the plow, directionally rotate the plow in one direction, get the snow off of the road. So they really don't have much choice but to get it off the road. It's going onto the sidewalk, and it will go across driveways. We just don't have the ability to stop at every driveway and bypass it and go to the next. It's not productive. So again, we have to ask people to do their part to shovel out those driveway.
That's really the bottom line, I think. I mean, people need to understand, and I think a lot of people do, that it's a team effort. It's not, the government doesn't do all of it. You have to get out there and you have to do your part too for it to work. And nobody likes going out there more than once. It's frustrating, and you get all sweaty and all covered and soaking wet and cold. But you got to go out there a couple times, and sometimes you got to go out there after the plow and you got to do the sidewalk again. That's just the way it goes.
And like I say, it was like 3 10-inch storms. So it took several passes, and unfortunately you may have had several deposits of snow at your driveway apron after you had just shoveled it. Yeah. But people, sometimes that's how they shovel anyway. They do it in lifts.
Right.
Whether you do
3
10-inch
at this
lifts
storm,
or you do 1 30-inch lift, you're still doing 30 inches. So.
And like you said, this was very different from a normal 7 to 5 days. So I'm imagining not a lot of sleep for you during this event, but we certainly thank you for your efforts, your staff's efforts, and all of the contractors and all the plow drivers that were working so hard. Now, are you yourself a fan of the snow? Is it a dream or a nightmare for you?
When I was a kid, I loved it.
Now you're like, no, I don't want it anymore.
I could do without it now.
So you are opposite
honestly.
the Kristen Lagan of you. I'm hoping for another snow.
Did you do the, huddle by the window and sit there and watch for it and stay up all night when your parents told you to go to sleep?
Oh yeah.
And then it didn't snow and you're like, uh-oh.
Oh my goodness. No, I was the weirdest kid.
I totally did that when I was a kid.
When it snowed, I had the window open. I loved it that much.
That explains a lot,
I
Kristen.
know, right?
Yep.
So let's get away from the snow for a minute, though. Any other exciting projects that you want to talk about while you're here that are going on with DPW?
We do have a lot going on in DPW. One of the, I think, highlighted projects for us is the largest capital project the county has ever undertaken. As well, it's going to be the largest nitrogen reducing component of our whole bay restoration program in Arundel County, and that's the upgrades of the Cox Creek wastewater treatment plant.
Yes.
We've got a $140 million plus project going on right now to basically reconstruct that treatment plant to limit of technology standards, and it's going to be the highest performing plant in Anne Arundel County. It's our oldest, largest plant, so it's going to make the most difference in our the quality of water that's being returned to the bay. So we're real excited about that, and we have that scheduled to be complete by the end of this year.
It's very exciting.
It's going to be it's a membrane plant. It's a whole different technology for wastewater treatment that we're really excited about. So,
and that one's in Glen Burnie. Where is it located?
Creek, it's next to it's off of Fort Smallwood Road, adjacent to the Brandon Shores Power Plant.
Okay.
So it's back
Right in my neck of the woods.
And we have some other things. I mean, there's a lot going on, and I think another one I'd like to highlight is just the fact that the county executive added $10 million to our road reconstruction budget last year. So we're in the process of getting, right now is not the time for road reconstruction, but springtime we'll start really hitting the pavement, literally, with work, and we're real excited to see that increase because we've got a backlog. I think most people would agree that our roads need work.
Especially after this storm.
And after this storm.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that. There's a lot going on there, and I'd be happy to take you guys around, show you some of the projects.
I think we need to do that. A little field segment, huh?
Let's go. Field trip.
Yes. I've always wanted to get in the plow. So next time we have something, I'm raising my hand.
Sure. Oh gosh, not on my street.
Very good. Well, lots of exciting stuff going on. Of course, you can always stay up to date on the newer design of the county webpage, and of course, the County Department of Public Works Facebook page, which always highlights what's going on around the county. So thank you so much for joining us this week, and don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Week in Review right after this.